anybody who is unfortunate enough to have encountered Nigeria, at least from 1970, or should I say from 1966 as a matter of fact, should be very angry. My anger is wasn't generated spontaneously. It's something that came over many years and many decades of brutal oppression and repression of our people. Something that I witnessed as a child immediately after the war. How my village was turned upside down by the same Nigerian military. So the encounter in my house on the 14th of September of 2017 is nothing new. It's something that we've become accustomed to. The military coming to villages and doing whatever they like. Because in their eyes, we're a conquered people. And when you're a conquered people, you have only one avenue, which is to fight back. And in most instances, the only fuel that you need is the rage and anger you feel, not against them, but against the injustice and the system of oppression which they have come to represent. Mine is more like righteous indignation. I'm not happy about the level of repression, the level of mediocrity, the level of poverty, the level of hopelessness and also backwardness, not just in Nigeria but across the entire sub-Saharan Africa. Okay. And it gives me a cause for concern because some of the universities that the leaders of the civilized world attended, we encounter today, most of the universities that they went to, some of these African leaders went to the same schools as well. So I'm beginning to wonder, when they taught the same subjects or the same discipline, why must things be different? Why must we be so backward in Africa? Why don't we have any pride, no shame, nothing? So the source of my anger is quite numerous. It's not just one. But the silver bullet for me is Biafra. The emancipation of the people of Biafra will put to bed most of these rather negative things that we've come to associate with black people and black mentality. So mine is way deeper than what other people see. The fact that we are the lowest people in the world by virtue of every human measurement or indices. We are the lowest of the low. The poorest countries of the world are in Africa. The most repressive, backward regimes in the world are in Africa. The most politically naive people are in Africa. That gives me a cause for concern, and that is why I'm very angry. In defense of Nigeria wouldn't sound quite right. Okay. I think that most people that refer to that video or that gathering in London, which I organized, quoted me out of context. I organized a protest in London, okay, that encompassed everybody who claims he or she is a Nigerian, to campaign against or to speak out against what Boko Haram was doing, against the imperialist Fulani oligarchy. Most people came because they felt aggrieved. They said they were Nigerians and they wanted to come to be part of it. I consulted far and wide, and I spoke at that very occasion as well. It wasn't intended to convey any sense of, patriotism on my part towards Nigeria, not at all. But we are reacting to a series of events that should not happen in the first place. In this instance, what the Boko Haram people were doing to innocent people back home, especially the Igbos that were massacred in Malala, if I'm not mistaken. So that gave birth to it. And also, it served a very useful purpose to gauge the sincerity of Nigerians towards fighting what was obviously a menace, an evil, more or less. And as time went on, I discovered that the country was unsolvable. They're trying to campaign for equity and justice. Nigeria-wide was an certain futility. That narrowing things down to your own people will be a far better way of doing things rather than trying to save those who are unsavable, so to speak. As I said, there is righteous indignation. I believe that the only people that could possibly make positive and lasting impact in the lives of the black people, Biafrans, more people can do. Only us can in Africa. We have a divine mission, a purpose. The reason I tend to approach my belief in Biafra and what I do, or my tenacity, if you put it that way, to my reading of the promise of God on the lives of Biafran people. In other words, what we are doing is not temporal. It it is spiritual. That I am the way I am is because God allowed me to be so, in order to fulfill this very purpose, in order to carry out this very mission. And that is why we are not going to stop, and that is why IPOB is virtually indestructible by man. And that is why I speak with every certainty and authority that Biafra will come, because I will never ever stop. Regardless of the obstacle, regardless of the attempt at inducement, regardless of the frustrations, regardless of the lies, there is nothing on this earth. If you bring me the sun and the moon, I won't stop until Biafra comes. Because I understand what Biafra represents. People don't. I do. That Biafra is the only singular hope for black people on this very earth. Without Biafra, there is no God. But I know there is, and that's why Biafra will come.
So I have a love and passion for everyone. But it was the way that Nigeria is structured and made it almost impossible to get that very message across. In our conversation, I'm very clear. Had Nigeria been put together by the Zik, Awo, and Ahmadu, I can live with it. But the fact that a white man came across, set up a private limited company, and then from there we became a nation, I find it really made me insulting. Because I can't say something in Europe. I'm very foolish of me to allow that to happen. I also made it very clear that half the conversation being led by William succeed or culminated in a sovereign national conference, perhaps there could have been some sort of merit in trying to articulate a way out of the melee that Nigeria is in within the understanding that that very sovereign national conference took into consideration the views and aspirations of everybody. Because Nigeria, the way you see, is not just about the Igbos, the Hausas, and the Yorubites. There are other people within as well. Their views and opinions must also count. But having things the way we do right now in that part of the world, their voices are being subdued. And it's not fair. And I'm a freedom fighter. I fight for not just my own freedom, but for the freedom of everybody else. I don't do tables. I don't want all African countries to be bought while we have our grows and flowers. I'm going to do fine. I'm just going to do it in that. I am prepared to convince the Africans to make sure that oil and gas found in Biafra land in this present day is distributed over those as it means. If it means handing it over to the UN to supervise the sale and disbursement of funds, so be it. I don't want people to think that our station for freedom has anything to do with, wealth or economy or the need to exclude other people. Not at all. I want to make that clear. I don't say to them that I have this, I won't say Pan-African, but there was something vision and view. And I want to say else. To the point whereby to have a high-speed red line running from Calabar to maybe Banjo, what was you mentioning? To like I said, if I want something to do here. What everybody do different. This is this country until the war. America actually is fighting very hard to see that Mexico to an extent is developed, at least to mitigate the influx of migration into America. So I have the love and passion for everybody. But it was the way that Nigeria is structured and made it almost impossible to get that very message across. As I said on the Sahara TV in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, Nigeria will watch that Somalia very shortly. And all the signs that I have to say, it will consume everybody. Because that, they will have to adapt it. As long as the oil and gas continues to flow, their primary concern, they will hear them. But if you look at the CNN doesn't talk about killings here, focusing on here in the States, they're not relevant. Because it is in the interest of certain individuals to make sure that this level of human atrocity happening and being perpetrated by Añgéří, and that thing he brought in from Sudan, Jubail. That the Islamization, the which I repeatedly warned our people about, is about to I wish I'm focusing on following that for a few weeks, but about to take firm root. And I see no redemption for Nigeria as an entity. But I see redemption for what I call the Middle Belt, the East, and the West. If they realize and wake up on time to do the needful. And that needful is a complete and utter repudiation of everything to do with Nigeria as presently constituted. We must take our destiny into our own hands if we want to survive, because the hurricane has come and everybody will be rendered asunder, if we like it or not. It doesn't matter how prejudiced we are. It doesn't matter how tribalistic we pretend we are not, but really we are. It doesn't matter how narrow-minded we are. One thing is inescapable. Everybody will suffer the consequences unless something is done, and immediately. Now, how do you get down to it? If I'm understanding, as I've just said, that there are certain conversations that need to be had. It doesn't matter if you're against Biafra or not. But you know that together, middle belt, west and the east, we can stop these very Anglo attacks on Israel. I believe that they understand where we're going to. And Biafra doesn't mean the exclusion of other people. We can have Biafra or Duduwa and a middle belt state. And sometime in the future, should our people agree, come together to have a nation as we have in the EU, and people to decide in which direction we wish to get to. That's what I was saying. Anybody thinking otherwise, suggesting otherwise, or discussing otherwise is being disingenuous. You are lying to yourself. Because what Biafra represents is freedom for everyone, both political, social, cultural, and economic freedom. This is something we want to understand. And from Becky, have been given to this new consciousness within Africa that will allow us to adequately identify who our enemies are and be able to do something or put something in place on time to make sure that the level of meddling from outside forces is curtailed immensely. When evil is hard, you should be able to rise up from the pulpit and say that this is bad, this is evil. That's what. When you try to excuse the actions of the dictator, I find your preaching unpalatable, and I will speak out against it. Some people accuse him of writing money from. That's something about us sometimes that we don't listen to where black people in Africa. How could he have taken money from anyone? When it's the same person that they claim that he took money from, it doesn't make any sense to where they write into the person. What I'm saying is that if you're a minister of God and you preach the gospel, you should be able to preach whatever you're preaching according to the dictates of the Bible or whichever book that you're reading. When you say you're a servant of Christ, of the cross, and you condone what Añgéří is doing, because in essence, Añgéří is the president of Nigeria anyway. He's the one running the show. When you condone what Añgéří is doing in the name of Buhari through Jubilee, then I have issues with people. Those are the ones that I condemn. As I said before, I have been misreported and misquoted on a few occasions. I believe that everybody will benefit from the industry and ingenuity of the West. I subscribe to that as well. Those driving this wage of enmity between us are those who are benefiting. Yeah. Thank you. The situation that we find ourselves in is very dire and desperate. Some of you may not have listened to me in the past, but I'm sure with Passenger echoing what repeatedly said, excuse me, even on South waters, that's the simple need to know. That there is imminent danger, our land will be overrun by these hordes from the north, and nobody will come to our rescue. It will not just affect our people, it will also affect those in the middle belt, and it will also affect the Ududuwa nation as well, west. There should be a line through which this very army cannot cross. And that line we should and must be drawn in the middle belt. If we don't draw that line, if we don't rise up to protect our people, we will all die. What I said before has come to fruition. If we do not resist Nigeria, we will all perish in the process. If anybody wants to form a nation, you decide who you build a nation with. A nation is an organic process. The formation of a nation must and will by nature remain an organic process. It is not something that you force on individuals. You are not going to know it anymore. That is why Nigeria is going to the floor, and that is why the only remedy is going to rise up. The time is now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month, and not next year. Don't take it from me, take it from those that know. Thank you very much.